I call this talking about sex. This week, we're going to look into intimacy and consent, really important communication topics. So let's get started. This is Let's Talk Turkey with Janie Turk, and I'm Janie Turk. For this week, if you're doing this as a class, you're going to be reading the chapter on interpersonal communication and close relationships, and you're going to be writing 2 chapter notes for me. Disclaimer, this is not a sex ed class. This is a communication class, and that's the parts that we're going to be talking about. To give you an overview, what we're going to talk about is sex and intimacy. We're going to be talking about consent. That's a really important communication topic. We're going to be talking about health and safety, boundaries, wishes and desires, body count, and finally, we're going to be talking about cheating, and probably not in the way that you expect. So I encourage you to go on over to the Consent and Tea video and check that out. I'll give you a link in the chat. And always make sure that you watch those little videos because it's really important. So let's talk about consent. Always ask. Especially the first time that you're getting intimate with somebody, you want to be very clear about what it is that you're intending to do and what you want. And you want to make sure that that very first encounter is not intoxicated or on any kind of substances. Not that drunken sex might not be fun, but the idea is that if you're under the influence, you can't give consent. And so you don't want there to be any misunderstanding. So until you're in a long time established relationship, you want to make sure that you are both capable of giving consent. And so you always ask, and you can say, is this something that you want to do? And as a reminder, when you're asking, if no is the answer, no is a complete sentence. And so if you get told no, that doesn't mean that you have to end the relationship or storm off in a huff or try harder, because that is the worst thing you can do. What you do, if you're like, I'm kind of in the mood, so I'm going to book because I think that sticking around is going to be complicated, that's fine. Don't pressure, don't push, don't try and persuade. No is a complete sentence. And the flip side of that is if your answer is yes, say so. Don't play games. Be clear and direct about what it is that you're signing up for. And so, rules for first, I already said the first time you should make sure that you are both clear-headed, able to make that decision. You should make sure that you're in a place where you both feel safe and that you can have the conversation. And there needs to be lots of conversations, right? So more than just the do you want to do it, but the what are our expectations, especially regarding health. And we'll get to that next. So health and safety. So where are you going to have conversations about intimacy? And the answer should be in a place where you feel safe. So obviously you want some level of privacy. Depending on how well you know the person, you might want to also have some level of security of other people around. Because if your answer is no, and they don't take that well, then you want to make sure that you are being safe, that you are being protected. So when do you have these conversations? I like to say always with your clothes on. So before you get to the point where you are committing to being naked together, you want to have the conversation about what it is that you want. And you also want to have the conversation that involves all of the things like, are you going to use protection? Are you going to use condoms? Do you have STDs that we should be knowing about, that we should be careful about? So what are those things that you need to ask about? And I want to be very clear. One of the things that you can practice saying is saying no without hurting somebody's feelings. So here's the deal. If this isn't the thing that you want, that's okay. That's okay. And so the way to say no without hurting somebody's feelings is to not give excuses, is to not lead them on, like maybe my answer will change tomorrow. If it does, that's great. You can inform them of that then. Instead, say something like, I am really into you and I am not interested in engaging in this activity at this time. End of sentence, full stop. When you discuss what your boundaries are and what things you want, what things you desire, it's really important that you are super clear, again, because we all come into this with different understandings of what kinds of language mean. So if you want to insist on a specific kind of intimacy, again, you have this conversation in a place where you are relatively safe and secure, and you inform them of what it is that you want in ways that are appropriate in terms of time, appropriate in terms of timing. So that means enough in advance that people aren't surprised. And it means, again, do this with your clothes on. So if you want to say, hey, I really want to make out with you and that's all I want to do, cool. It's better to do that early than to do it in the midst. And again, be direct with what you want. Be direct with what you're willing to do, with what you're willing to not do, where you want to draw the line. And super important then, listen and respect what the other person is saying too. So the body count conversation is one that I think is super important, and you may have noticed my little red flag. So you might get asked, how many people have you been with? And curiosity is natural, right? And we're also a very competitive society. The thing is that there's no really right answer to this, and it is a big trap. So I'm going to give you the only two answers I think you should ever give to this question. So, like I said, it's a natural question. If you ask the question or get asked the question and you answer it, what happens? The partner's jealous. They want to know who. They want to know, and if the number is what they've determined to be too big, then that creates problems. If the number is too small, that can create problems too, because of the way that our society feels about such things. So I'm going to say that there are only two answers. One is, you're the first. I think that your partner has the right to know that if it's in fact true. And that allows them to anticipate that and accommodate all of the things that that can entail. Or you're not the first. No more detail. No more detail. I'm here today with you because that's where I want to be. That's all that matters. All of the events and people in my life have brought me to you here today. That's good enough. Okay, cheating. So before I get into anything else, let me say very clearly, don't fucking cheat. Just don't. Don't do it. It creates all kinds of problems and all kinds of heartache for you and other people. Don't do it. I do have to say, however, that how you define cheating and how your partner defines cheating are definitely different. I don't know what those differences are, but I do know if you don't have the conversation, you won't know either. So, is it cheating to look at a girly magazine or read a trashy romance novel? Is it cheating to have a sexy conversation with somebody on text? Is it cheating to kiss somebody at a party? I don't know what your answers are. Unless you have that conversation, though, you don't know what your partner's answers are either. So please discuss what you expect. Please, I beg of you. So before I go any farther, say out loud to an empty room what you think is cheating and what you think is not cheating. So if I get a text message from somebody who's not you, am I cheating? Will you be jealous? What if they send me a picture? Is that cheating? Think about it. I don't have a say in this, folks. I don't have a say in what you and your partner decide is cheating. I've had thousands of these conversations in my classrooms over the years, and I am always surprised at where people fall in the answers to the categories. Some things that I clearly would say, oh yeah, that's cheating. My students disagree, and vice versa. So please have that conversation. And again, don't cheat. But if you do, don't tell. And let me explain. If you tell because you feel guilty and it relieves the guilt. That's not fair. If you tell, you're transferring the burden of that knowledge from you, the person who fucking cheated, to the innocent party. If you tell, you're burdening your partner with all kinds of thoughts and images that they don't deserve to have. Makes you feel better and makes them, the innocent party, feel worse. That's not fair. Now, there are some exceptions. So if it's going to become public knowledge that you cheated, you should get ahead of that and you should tell. If you weren't practicing safe sex and there's a possibility that you may have contracted an STD, you tell. If there's a possibility that there's going to be a new baby involved, you tell. In every other situation, you don't tell. And the reality is that if you cheated, your partner on some level knows. Unless you're a narcissist, in which case you're not watching this video because you don't care. Your partner knows, and they maybe don't want to face it because facing it might force them into a decision they're not necessarily ready to make. So, don't rub their nose in it. Come on, don't do that. That's not fair. If you cheat, don't tell, unless one of those other circumstances is involved. And if you do cheat, I encourage you to then make a decision. Make a decision right now. Okay, you cheated. You're not going to tell. You're either going to end the relationship and not tell your partner still. End it gracefully. End it by thanking them for being a part of that journey. Do not put the blame on them. Do not make them feel worse because you cheated on them. End the relationship. Or decide that you're really going to recommit to that relationship and hope that they'll be able to get past that underlying knowledge that they do have. Please, I beg of you, don't cheat. If you do cheat, don't tell. Recommit to the relationship or end it. In either case, make sure that you, the person who did the wrong thing, is the one who's carrying that burden. Okay, so next up, I want you to imagine in your current relationship or on a first date, if you're not in a relationship, how you're going to have those kinds of conversations. And unlike usual, we're not going to put this full conversation in a discussion board. I do want you to practice saying stuff out loud. So what is the stuff you need to say? So you might want to draw boundaries. You might want to discuss your physical health. You might want to discuss your rules about cheating, right? Where does this go in the relationship? So I want you to practice that out loud. Practice what you were going to say, what you could say. And then for the discussion board, I don't want the details. I just want you to post something that you've thought of to say and how you would say it. Don't post the details. Just tell me that, yes, I have a pretty good idea of what I'd say, and tell me how well you think it would work. Do you think this message is going to be received? And then by Sunday, read classmates' posts. Be glad we're not having this as a conversation. So no response required, and there is no simulation journal this week because we're not actually practicing a skill. In case no one said it today, I love you. This has been Let's Talk Turkey with Jenny Turk. I'm really glad you're here. If this is content that you like, please appreciate, follow, share, subscribe to my YouTube channel, all that good stuff, and I hope to see you soon. If you want more information about me, I'll leave the screen up for a minute. Thank you for being here.